Hey guys, today we're working on the fluorescent light that we're going to put in behind the Marquee, and I have it partially disassembled here. This is just the main casing. I have the bulb out and I have the front cover off, and what I've been doing is equally spacing it so that I can put some mounting bolts through, and the bolts are going to come through from the top. I'm going to countersink them, and the bolts are long enough so that this will extend down. It won't be mounted flush. Right here is the bolts I'm going to use. They're I believe they're about 2.5 inches. Let's see. Here's the tape measure. Whoops. Let's see. Yeah, we're about 2.5 inches. I know you can't see in that lighting there, but about 2.5 inches. And we're going to make some countersink holes here with a spade bit. These are going to set probably 1/4 of an inch down into here and extend down a couple of inches and come through these holes right up here. And there'll be some taps and some lock washers put in there to hold it. And to keep it from being all wobbly, we have some plastic spacers here. And all this is just leftover stuff from a coffee maker installation kit that I had. And these were spacers and bolts that came with that. And they're still in great shape, so we're just going to use those. And I have a washer kit here. I got some flat washers out there to put on the top to keep this from embedding itself down into the particle board. And going to get some lock washers out of here to put on the other side with these taps, so that once we mount it, it won't try to, work its way loose off the threads. Right here we have a clamping mechanism. You have to knock a metal knockout out of this assembly, and there's many in there. I don't know if you can see, but there's one back there. They have one in the center, and they have one over there, and even on the ends they have them. You can knock out from any of those locations, because this is not made to plug in. It's actually made to be hardwired. And right in here you have your ground wire that extends over, and there's a couple other little wires there. That's your neutral and your hot. So this will be wired in. I'm not sure if I will put a plug on the end of that to plug into a power strip inside the cabinet, or if I'm going to wire all the AC together, kind of like you would any type of electrical connection in your house if you were hooking up maybe a light fixture or something like that, and then somehow connect that to an AC block or something inside the cabinet. But I'm going to decide that later. But right now we'll install this, possibly if we can figure out where we want to run the wiring into. It'll probably be on this side over here, so we may knock out that metal knockout there, and then we'll put a piece of 14 gauge Romex that will run down inside the cabinet to connect to the AC block or wherever we get our AC power from. But right now we have this perfectly aligned. We've spaced it evenly from the front of the cabinet on each side, and evenly from each side. It's about 3/4 inch in from each side, and from the front we have it about, let's see, coming in from the front we've got it about 3.5 inches on each side. And I've actually already perfectly spaced it, and I've marked me some places. If you can see right there, pencil marks on each side. That's where we're going to drill the initial holes down into. And once we drill the holes all the way through, which this will mount off of, we'll come back with a spade bit. Let's see, I think we have that right here. We have a half inch spade bit, and we're going to go down into those holes that we drilled just about 1/4 inch or so, just to recess the head of the screw in the washer. So we're going to go ahead and get those holes drilled now. We'll come back in a few minutes and show you some of the installation. Okay guys, we got our holes drilled, and our bolts fit down in there real good. We have the washers on there at the moment. As you can see, it's real good snug fit, and they extend down through here. If I can get some light here. Sorry, it's not focusing in this light, but anyway, we got those set where they'll extend down through there. And the other one comes through just behind this little plate where we're going to mount our power switch in the cabinet. This was originally there for the old cabinet, and I'm just leaving it because it works out perfect, and I'm going to use the old AC switch, the toggle switch, over again. But I did have to space it. I know it's hard for you to see, but that hole that we just drilled just comes right behind there. I just barely spaced it out where that would come behind there. And what we're going to do now, I'm standing in a chair, so if I sound like I'm grunting, it's because I'm stepping up and down. What we're going to do now is come back and here's the hole we drilled for that bolt. We're going to come back with this spade bit in the hole, and we're just going to wallow it out to make a recess so the heads of these bolts are not sticking up like that, because we don't want them sticking up. We want them to seat down flush underneath there. So we're going to do that, and we'll come back in a minute and show you what that looks like. Okay guys, we got our other one kind of countersunk and pre-drilled there. Got my flashlight over here so you can see a little better, but there's our screw and our washer. See if I can get this up so you can kind of see what's down in there. We went about half the thickness of the wood, so it's maybe almost 1/4 inch. This is almost 3/4 inch of this particle board or whatever it is. I've heard it called all different kinds of things. I think MDF might be a little different, but it's man-made stuff, compressed with sawdust and glue or chips and glue. But anyway, see, it's down in there nice and perfect. Kind of flushes up the head of our screw. So we have that on both sides now. And there's where our power switch will go. That's what we were trying to miss, that plate on the bottom with the power switch going to match. But got them both flushed up. So nice and flush on top of the cabinet. It looks kind of neat recess like that. I like that. So it just gets the heads down a little bit. And down underneath the cabinet, there's the bolts extending down through there. And we're going to go ahead and mount our light up here, see how it looks, and have to put our spacers in first, these little white spacers, space it down a ways. And we're trying to get it kind of centered up where the marquee is going to eventually be. Now it's not going to be perfectly centered. I think it's going to be just a little higher than center. But I went in there and looked at some of my Mortal Kombats, and I mean, they're nowhere near precise. It looks like they just threw those things in pretty quick at the factory. But I think my Mortal Kombat 1 actually looked a little higher and a little more to the left than center. And this is going to be perfectly centered from left to right. Might be just a little higher than center from bottom to top, but it's going to be, you know, it's going to be good enough. It ought to look perfect when it lights up the marquee. So let's get that installed and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay guys, we got the kit mounted in and it worked out pretty darn good. And we put a extra tap in here. Let me see if I can get the flashlight up here. There's an extra tap and a lot washer at the top of those spacers, and the reason I did that is because I need to space down past that little 1/4 inch piece of wood right there that gave a base plate for the main power switch. And if you can see right around there, see the spacer would not make it by that because I had the hole drilled so closely. And I could have come back and chipped some of that wood out with a chisel or something like that, but I said, oh well, I'll just put another lot washer and a tap on there and they'll actually lock the whole bolt in tighter from the top, and then put the spacers in after it. And then we put a tap and a lock washer at the very bottom, and our bolt, it dead ends right there at the edge of the tap, and the lock washer will keep it from coming undone, and the same thing on the other side. So it worked out really good. Our spacing's even, and the fluorescent tube is going to be about 2.5 inches back from the marquee. And I measured on my Mortal Kombats and it was around 2 inches or slightly more back on the distance for the bulb and the marquee on that. And I figured an extra 1/2 inch won't hurt anything, and that helped us to clear that plate for the power switch up top. And if you can envision it, once the marquee's right there, it's pretty close to center. It's not quite center, it's just a little higher than that, but that bulb is going to be facing the marquee and that should give plenty of light for that, no problems. But I'll show you in a few minutes what it looks like with the plate back on and the bulb in place. Well, there it is guys. I got the front plate back in to cover the wiring, and I went ahead and put the bulb in, the fluorescent tube, and it's still got some foam over it. I'm not going to take it off, it's just protecting it. And if you can see, this is smaller than the standard ones that you would see coming in an arcade, but this is a slightly wider width. I can't remember, seems like this is a trying to remember if this is a 22 inch. Let me take a look. I don't think it's 22 inch, I think it's a little less than that. Let's see. Well, actually it is almost, it's 21 or 22 inches. I'd have to look on the documentation, but I think some of them are 18 inches as standard. I know it's a little shorter in the Mortal Kombats in there. but they're fatter tubes. This is a smaller tube. I think it's a type T5, and it's supposed to give off just as much, if not more, brightness than the other types of tubes. And I don't know about the lifespan of them, but I think these can be replaced pretty easily. I think you can find the replacements anywhere you can, the other ones. But we got it mounted in. One more step down, and hopefully I'll get the wiring for that done before long, but we still have to get all the other wiring done in the cabinet. So just mainly the physical installation of this is one of the most important things, and don't want to knock out the little blank, the metal blank, until I know exactly where I'm going to run the wiring up to. And like I said, there's like 4 or 5 options in this unit where to run the wiring in. But that's the last thing I got done here recently. Worked out really well, and it's really strong too. You can basically move the whole cabinet around by this thing. That's how strong it is. But it's not going anywhere, and it's not going to bounce around or jostle around while you're playing on the cabinet. But that's the latest on the main cab. Talk to you guys later.